Chapter 1. A Tear in the Sky. The sky over Metropolis boiled. Clouds churned in tight spirals above the skyline, lit from within by pulses of violet energy. Lightning forked downward without thunder, lashing against an invisible dome of shimmering light that enclosed an entire city block. The daily planet globe gleamed faintly in the strange glow, like a quiet eye watching the chaos unfold. Superman hovered at the edge of the dome, cape hanging still in the charged air. Inside the barrier, a ring of floating devices hummed around a towering spire of alien metal that had grown up through the foundations of an abandoned warehouse. The spire pulsed in time with the clouds. Symbols in no human language rippled across its surface. "Starlab said this was a simple containment field," he muttered. His con crackled in his ear. "Superman, this is Dr. Hamilton. The field is already beyond anything we modeled. Whatever that thing is, it is rewriting local spacetime. Can you shut it down? We tried. The interface is not responding to our systems anymore. It may have fused with the artifact." Superman's gaze narrowed on the spire. Artifact. That was one word for it. He had seen a lot of strange things in his life. This was new. "Then I'll have to shut it down myself." "Careful," Halton said, voice tight. "There is an energy build-up at the core that does not match anything on our charts. We think it might be extra-dimensional." "Story of my life," Superman said, more to center himself than to joke. "Evacuate the surrounding area. Get everyone clear." "We already started when the sky changed color," Hamilton replied. "Most of the city block is empty. Most isn't enough." He blurred once through the streets, scooping up stragglers, rattled drivers, a boy hiding under a park bench with his dog. He carried them out of the shimmering dome, one after another, moving so fast they appeared as blue and red streaks to the security cameras. When the block was finally empty, he hovered again at the barrier's edge. The hum of the spire had grown into a low, pulsing roar. The air tasted metallic, like ozone and old coins. "Doctor, any idea what happens if this thing goes critical?" he asked. Rend of Superman, now 1-3. The sign will return. "The math we do have suggests that if the field collapses inward, it could punch a hole in spacetime itself." Superman touched the shimmering wall. It tingled against his fingers like static, resisting him for an instant. Then his hand pushed through, as if the energy had recognized him, and decided to get out of the way. "Good thing I fly," he said, and slipped inside. The hum became a physical pressure against his skin. The hair on his arms rose. Even for him, the sensation was uncomfortable. He rose above the cracked pavement, closing the distance to the spire. The alien metal twisted in spirals, a geometry that seemed to wriggle at the corner of his awareness. His Kryptonian sensors had seen through lead, through illusions, through magic more than once. This thing did not want to be understood. At the base of the spire, nested like a parasite, was something he did recognize. A familiar trapezoidal device with a polished surface and inset emitters. "A phantom zone projector," he said, surprise sharp in his voice. The last time he had seen one, it had nearly cost the world its freedom. But this one was different. Lengths of crystalline fiber that looked like Kryptonian tech had been crudely grafted onto its frame, fused with coils and conduits that hummed with unnatural energy. Someone had been experimenting, mixing Phantom Zone technology with something else entirely. "Who did this?" he whispered. The projector flared, as if it had heard him. A beam of light lanced up into the spire's core. There was a grinding, tearing sound that had nothing to do with metal. The air rippled. Superman, Hamilton's voice, shouted in his ear, frantic now. "We just saw a massive spike. You need to get out of there. Now." He ignored the warning. Some part of him had already decided that if this thing was going to tear a hole in reality, it was going to do it through him, not through Metropolis. He braced his hands around the projector, feeling the alien metal grow hot under his palms. It fought him, twisting in micro-adjustments that tried to slide out of his grip. "Not happening," he growled. He poured his strength into it, fingers denting the casing, muscles locking like steel cables. The beam of light intensified. The spire shook. The symbols crawling across its surface brightened, then began to move faster, like 1,000 tiny comets. Above him, the clouds split open. From somewhere far away, Hamilton's voice became a distant echo. The energy is inverting. It is not collapsing. It is tunneling. Superman, you are at the focal point. If it bonds to your bioelectric field, you could be dragged through with the distortion. He could feel it already. A tugging sensation at the core of his being, not physical, not mental, something deeper, as if gravity had chosen his soul as its anchor. You can shut the dome down, Superman said, not sure if his words were reaching anyone now. If it goes, let it take me. Do not let it take Metropolis. Clark. He recognized the voice. Not from the comm. Lois. He did not look toward the sound. If he did, he might hesitate. He held the projector tighter instead. Tell everyone. He started. He did not know how to finish the sentence. Tell them what? That he was sorry? That he would try to find his way back? The energy grabbed him. The world bent. Light exploded, brighter than any sun. For a moment, he felt as if he were everywhere at once, stretched across 1,000 possibilities. He saw a red sun flicker out and another rise in its place. He saw cities he did not know, skies with 3 moons, ships made of light crossing oceans of stars. Then there was nothing. No sound. No sight. Just motion. He was falling without falling, pulled through a tunnel that did not exist, every atom ringing like a bell. He did not know how long it lasted. When the world returned, it did so violently. He slammed into something solid at incredible speed. Instinct made him cross his arms in front of his face. Steel screamed. Lights shattered. For a few seconds, all he knew was friction and impact as he tore through layers of metal and composite. He came to a stop in darkness. Alarms wailed in his ears, shrill and alien. Red emergency strips lit up along the ceiling of a corridor that was now partially collapsed around him. Smoke and steam hissed from ruptured conduits. The air smelled sterile, with an undercurrent of hot electronics. Superman pushed a twisted beam off his chest and straightened. He was standing in a narrow hallway of some kind of ship. Bulkheads framed the space at rigid angles, painted white and grey, now marred with streaks of scorch and debris from his unplanned arrival. He had been on a city street moments ago. This was not Metropolis. He floated a few inches above the deck, eyes narrowing. His hearing reached outward automatically. He heard footsteps pounding on metal, shouted orders in a language he understood only because his brain was already moving to map its patterns. "Boarding party!" a voice shouted. "We are under fire from the destroyer! How did they get through the shields?" Destroyer. He turned his X-ray vision on the wall. The view swam for a moment as his senses recalibrated. Whatever power had dragged him here had tugged at everything, even the instincts he took for granted. Then the corridor melted away to ghostly outlines. He saw through bulkheads and decks, into the structure of the ship itself. It was smaller than some vessels he had seen in this universe, but big by human standards. A long, narrow frame with clustered compartments. Dozens of life signs moved within. He saw a larger vessel beyond, a wedge-shaped giant looming like a knife in the void. 2 ships, one small, one enormous. The smaller ship's hull flickered with the glow of energy shields. The larger spat lances of green light that crashed against those shields, flaring bright. No, not against. Through. He watched one of the beams punch through a weakening section of the shield and slam into the small ship's starboard side. Metal buckled. Rooms decompressed. Tiny silhouettes were flung into space. His jaw tightened. He focused his hearing on the bridge. "Shields are at 15% in dropping, Captain," someone shouted. "We cannot take another hit like that." "Keep our nose pointed out of the gravity well," another voice answered, low and controlled. "If we lose the hyperdrive, we are dead. Redirect power from the aft cannons to the shields." "We already did that," someone else yelled. "It is not enough." Outside, the massive wedge ship prowled closer, its front hangar bay opening like a dark mouth. Tractor beam, Superman thought. It just felt right, like putting a word to an image. He did not know where he had landed, but the situation was simple enough. A huge, powerful ship was attacking a smaller one that was trying to run. He knew which side he was on. The deck shook again as another blast rocked the small ship. Somewhere down the corridor, a door blew inward, showering sparks. Smoke billowed. Figures in white armor spilled through the haze, weapons raised. Their helmets were stark, skull-like, with black visors. Stormtroopers. A part of his mind whispered without context. They raised their rifles, green bolts already snapping toward him. Superman did not move until the first blast hit his chest. The impact was a bright flare of heat and kinetic energy, hotter than a tank shell, faster than a bullet. It washed over him and dispersed, stinging, but not enough to do more than singe the fabric of his suit. "Definitely not home," he said under his breath. The troopers paused for a fraction of a second, enough for him to see their confusion. Then they opened fire in earnest. He could have stood there and let the shots bounce off. Instead, he stepped forward. The world slowed. He saw each bolt as a glowing streak of light. He moved through them like a dancer, brushing shots aside with the flat of his hand, deflecting them into the ceiling, into the floor, into the walls where they left smoking scars. The troopers' aim faltered as their shots went wild. In the space of a second, he was among them. He did not break bones. He did not crush armor. He simply blurred between them, slapping rifles out of hands, tapping helmeted heads with enough force to send their wearers sprawling without shattering their necks. One tried to club him with the butt of his rifle. Superman caught the stock between two fingers and gently twisted. The weapon crumpled like soft plastic. "I am very sorry about whatever is happening," he said, genuinely meaning it as he ducked another swing. "But you are going to have to sit this one out." He stacked unconscious troopers neatly against one wall and melted the floor plating beneath their pile just enough that their armor fused lightly to the deck. They would be fine. They would also not be chasing anyone for a while. On the bridge, things were getting worse. He could hear it in the increasing pitch of the alarms, in the way the captain's heartbeat had shifted from steady determination to strain urgency. "Tractor beam is locking on," someone called. "We are caught." The smaller ship lurched. From Superman's X-ray vantage, the great wedge outside lit up along its underbelly. An invisible force clamped down on the smaller vessel, tagging it like a toy toward the yawning hangar. Superman looked up through the ceiling. The metal blurred away under his gaze, replaced by the black of space, the green flare of weapons fire, the hulking bulk of the attacking vessel. They were using some kind of energy field, projected from deep within the larger ship, to grab and pull the smaller one. He had tangled with telekinesis before. This felt similar, impersonal, but immensely strong. He could break that. He could at least try. He punched up through the ceiling. Deck plating shattered like cardboard. He rose through levels of the ship in a blur of motion, leaving ragged circles of torn metal behind. Crew members stumbled and shouted as the red and blue streak tore past them and vanished through the hull. For an instant he was in the void, with the stars all around. The twin disks of a nearby sun cast harsh light across everything. The smaller ship he had just left was a compact, battered thing, its hull pocked with scorch marks. The massive wedge looming in front of it dwarfed it utterly. The wet shimmer in the space between them told him where the tractor beam was active. Soundless and vacuum, but he heard the hum of it anyway, translated through the structure of the ships, through the faint vibration in his own bones. He flew toward the invisible pull. As he approached, he felt it like a river current, tugging at him, trying to drag him along with the smaller ship. He braced himself in space, arms out, and squinted at the bit of vessel's underbelly. There, a geometric array of emitters, a network of projectors that focused into the beam. He could not see the energy itself, but he could see what it did. He planted himself between the two ships. The tractor beam pushed at him from behind, dragging the smaller vessel forward. The projection pulled from in front, trying to draw everything toward the hangar bay at the wedge's center. Superman reached out with both hands toward the invisible focal point and pushed back. Space did not have up or down, but he imagined it anyway. The beam was a massive weight bearing down on him. He set his metaphorical feet and leaned into it. The energy field washed over him. It tried to wrap around him, to convert his body into a piece of captured mass, to calculate him as part of its solution. For a moment the pull intensified, as if the system were overcorrecting for something it could not understand. "Not today," he grunted. He pushed harder. A shockwave rippled along the line of force. On the bridge of the smaller ship, someone shouted that the tractor lock was fluctuating. On the command deck of the larger vessel, an officer barked at technicians as readings spiked and alarms flashed. Inside the tractor beam control room of the destroyer, a technician stared at the holographic display. The neat funnel of energy that represented their grip on the smaller ship now bulged around a bright, impossible anomaly. "It is pushing back," he said, stunned. "Something is resisting the beam." "Tractor beams do not get resisted," his superior snapped. "Increase power." The field intensified. Superman felt it, a crushing wave of invisible force. It tried to compact him, to freeze him in place. He roared and flew forward. The tug of the beam faltered, then snapped like a stretched cable. In the control room, the hologram shattered into jittering fragments. The small ship shuddered as the artificial gravity wash suddenly disappeared. On the destroyer's bridge, the gray-uniformed officer in command turned sharply toward the viewport. "What happened to the tractor lock?" "We lost it, sir," someone stammered. "There is an unknown interference in the field." The officer's jaw tightened. "Launch fighters. I want that ship crippled before it can jump." Outside, Superman watched as dozens of smaller vessels peeled away from the destroyer's surface. Sleek, dagger-winged craft with bulbous cockpit pods swept out in tight formations, engines flaring. They screamed toward the smaller ship like a swarm of angry insects. He did not know what they were called. He had never seen this kind of starfighter in his life. But they were firing on the same people who were just now grieving a little easier. That was enough. He rocketed forward to meet them. The first fighter loosed a volley of green shots. Superman flew straight into them. Bolts detonated against his chest and shoulders, scorching his suit, stinging like rapid hammer blows. He grunted at the impacts. Someone had designed these weapons to kill armored targets at extreme range. They were not expecting to hit something that could shrug off a nuclear blast. He slammed bodily into the fighter. The cockpit crumpled. The ship spun away in a trail of wreckage and fire, its pilot unconscious but alive, after Superman reached in and cradled the fragile form in one hand, cushioning the worst of the forces. He gently set the crumpled ship spinning out of the dogfight, away from the main engagement, so that its momentum would carry it clear for later rescue. The others broke formation, started. Then their targeting systems recalibrated, marking him as a threat. "Fine," he murmured. "Let us dance." He moved through them like a comet. He did not tear wings off or punch holes in cockpits. He yanked power couplings free, crushed cannons between his fingers, tapped engines just enough to send them sputtering. He turned lethal shots into warning sparks, guiding crippled fighters aside. To the pilots, it was a nightmare. Their sensors registered an impossible contact that moved faster than their targeting programs, ripping through the formation and leaving a trail of disabled craft. On the bridge of the smaller ship, Captain Kara then grabbed the edge of the tactical console to steady herself. "What are we seeing?" she demanded. "Are those the destroyer's fighters?" "Yes, Captain," her tactical officer said, wide-eyed. "But something is cutting them apart. I am reading. There is a contact out there with no transponder, no mass reading that makes sense. It is organic." The view screen zoomed on one of the fighters, just as a blue and red figure blurred past it, flicking the wings neatly aside like a toy. The Star Destroyer loomed in the background of the shot, but the pilot inside the crippled fighter was clearly alive, flailing at controls. Kara stared. "What in the name of the core worlds?" The figure slowed for an instant, just enough for the view to catch an outline. A man, by the look of him, in a blue suit with a red cape, floating in empty space as if gravity did not concern him. At his chest, a stylized symbol glowed in the sun's light, an angular S, framed in yellow. He turned his head, as if he had heard them, even through the vacuum. For a heartbeat, his eyes seemed to meet Kara's through the screen. Then he shot past the viewport, a streak of color, angling back toward the small ship. "Open the forward hangar," Kara said, acting on instinct. "Whatever that is on our side." Her helmsman hesitated. "Captain, protocol forbids us from." "Protocol can file a complaint later," she snapped. "Open the hangar and prep a containment team. I want weapons ready but not raised." If this thing wanted us dead, we would already be dead. The forward bay doors peeled open. Superman glided in. The air shimmered as atmospheric shields snapped into place behind him, keeping the void at bay. He landed gently on the hangar deck, boots touching down with a soft metallic thud. The red cape settled behind him. Rows of crew members stood frozen, mechanics in oil-smudged coveralls, deck officers in crisp uniforms, pilots in orange flight suits. A squad of soldiers in mismatched armor had their blasters half raised, unsure whether to aim or salute. The atmosphere smelled of fuel and ozone and fear. Superman lifted his hands slowly, palms open. "My name is Superman," he said. "I am here to help." The word echoed strangely in the hangar. A few people exchanged glances. The language was basic, but his accent was unlike any they had heard. Crisp and precise, but with hints of another world behind it. Caravan strode forward from the line of officers, her dark hair tied back, a captain's insignia gleaming at her collar. Tired eyes, but sharp. This was someone who had been under fire for a long time and had not broken. She stopped a few paces away, studying him. "You just took on a Star Destroyer," she said. Superman glanced back at the hangar opening where flashes of light still flickered in the distance. "I annoyed it," he corrected. "I suggest you make whatever jump you were planning. I bought you time, not victory." Her lips twitched. "You did that without a ship," she said. "Without armor, without a suit." He shrugged. "I am from somewhere else." "You do not say." Behind her, a young comms officer leaned toward another. "He is not a Jedi," the kid whispered. "Jedi need lightsabers." Superman filed the word away. Jedi. He could feel something in that term. A tone. A weight like when people said metahuman back home. "I do not know that word," he said, honestly. "I do not know where I am. I was in a city, on a world called Earth. There was an accident. Some kind of dimensional rupture. Now I am here, in the middle of someone else's war." Kara considered that. There were a dozen questions she wanted to ask, but the deck vibrated beneath them, reminding her that they were not safe yet. "Hyperdrive is ready," someone called over the hangar speakers. "Coordinates set." She nodded once, then met Superman's eyes again. "You are on a Rebel Alliance corvette," she said. "We are very, very wanted by the Empire." "So the bigger ship is the bad guy," he said. "In short, yes." He smiled faintly. "Then I picked the right side." The ship lurched as the engines powered up. The stars outside the hangar blurred, stretching into impossible streaks. Superman felt space twist again, but this time it did not grab his soul. It was simply a change of velocity, a translation into another mode of travel. "When we come out of hyperspace," Kara said, "there are going to be people with questions. High Command does not like surprises." "I understand," he said. "When we come out of hyperspace, I have questions too." "What kind of questions?" He looked past her, through the hull, out toward the stars that had shifted so violently in his life over the last few minutes. "About where I am," he said quietly. "About who you are, about your war, and about whether there is a way home." Far away, in the cold silence between systems, another ship drifted. On its bridge, a tall figure in black armor stood looking out at the streaks of hyperspace. The force swirled around him like a storm, as it always did. But something had changed. For a moment, not long ago, he had felt it. A flare in the currents, bright and alien. Not light, not dark. Something from outside the familiar spectrum, like a note from another song entirely. He drew in a slow breath, the sound hissing through his mask. "A disturbance," he murmured. The officers on the bridge pretended not to hear. The figure's gloved hand tightened on the edge of the console. "Find that ship," Darth Vader said. "Whatever escaped our tractor beam, it is not done with us." Back on the Rebel corvette, lasting vibrations from the jump rippled through the hull as the blue tunnel of hyperspace stabilized. In the hangar, crew members began to move again, shock giving way to nervous curiosity. Superman stood in the center of the deck, feeling the thrum of engines under his boots, the whisker of a different universe against his skin. He had saved lives. That part was familiar. Everything else was not. He drew in a breath that did not need to fill Kryptonian lungs and set his shoulders. If there was no way home, then this galaxy had just gained a very confused farm boy from Kansas with the powers of a god. He hoped, for everyone's sake, that he could live up to what that would mean. "Captain," he said to Caravan, as the ship carried them deeper into the unknown. "Start from the beginning. Tell me about this empire."